Welcome everyone to yet another episode of Diagnosing the Aftermarket A to Z. I'm Matt Fanslow, and today I have a guest. You'll never guess who it is, and I'm not starting until you do. Just kidding. It's Rich Falco from, do I even say CTI anymore?
Absolutely.
Or WTI, or
both.
Your mobile
Diag on
business?
demand and who knows what else.
So all that stuff he just said.
I'm from everywhere.
And don't splash the pot. That and more after a word from our sponsor, NAPA Autotech Training. For 98 years, the NAPA name has meant quality parts and service. It also reflects top quality training programs to help you build a more successful vehicle repair business. No doubt, the technician shortage is impacting everyone, but you're not facing this battle alone. NAPA has the solution by making NAPA Autotech training available near you. NAPA Autotech provides automotive aftermarket technicians career development opportunities through structured, disciplined, measured, and high-quality technical instruction, no matter the technician or service advisor's skill level. This instruction enhances understanding of vehicle systems, increases first-time repair capability, and overall customer satisfaction. This instruction enhances understanding of vehicle systems, increases first-time repair capability, and overall customer satisfaction. It also prepares technicians to become ASE certified. It's a fact technicians who receive training to improve their knowledge and skills have a higher sense of job satisfaction. This reduces technician turnover and increases productivity, directly improving a shop's profitability. It is vital to the success of a shop's business that today's technicians are equipped to diagnose and repair today's complex vehicles. With our ever-changing technology, the technician's knowledge and skills need to be updated and refreshed on a regular basis. As you labor over the decision of whether to send your techs to get their skills sharpened, keep in mind, NAPA Autotech training is an investment, not an expense, and it's available to all. Much of NAPA Autotech's training is offered in more than one format to accommodate varieties of learning styles and training preferences so each person can maximize their learning. Whether you're more of a hands-on person or enjoy learning at your own pace, NAPA Autotech is here to provide you with the training you need in the format that works best for you. To learn more about what NAPA Autotech offers, contact napaautotech.com. So I wanted Richard to join me because it turns out he is a big No Limit Texas Hold'em poker fan.
Absolutely.
And we're sitting here at Apex 2024 next to Joe's garage, where I must say, to the production levels over there, pathetic. I don't think I've seen flat rate broke once. I don't know. A little bit of advice for Joe over there. I haven't seen Joe.
It's a bunch of hourly guys. They don't care.
Oh, salary. Wait, I'm salary. Wait, what are you trying to say? I get bonuses sometimes.
Bonus?
On good months. When the guys work hard, I get a bonus. Well, because of that, and I had done an episode a while ago about Daniel Negreanu, and I didn't spend a whole lot of time on like poker strategy. More or less, my adoration of Daniel Negreanu as a professional, because he continues to do so. If you pick up any of his interviews on YouTube primarily, how he stays relevant, how he stays at the top for so long. And not the top like what you would always see on TV, but also these like high roller match games or pickup games or cash games.
Yeah. The
cash games that may not be televised. Mm-hmm. That he's very, very successful in that world and continues to be so. And how has that happened? And really the humility it took to go from a poker player who really just old school, tried to read people.
And does an amazing job at that.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. We'll talk about that. But just kind of the old school style, and how living at home, he'd take a bankroll or build up a bankroll working, and then boom, hit Vegas, boom, hit Atlantic City, pretty much lose everything, find a way home, repeat, rinse and repeat. And he started figuring things out, started to get good, builds up a big bankroll and starts having success, but then has to evolve. And that was the nature of that, you know, the evolution, learning new things, taking advice from younger players that older players typically are just scoff at.
Yeah.
Like, okay, you've been doing this 5 years. Just shut up.
Yep. These young kids are crazy.
Yeah. Phil Hellmuth style.
Yeah.
There's nothing you know that I don't. Mm-hmm. And I think I see that a lot in our world. But today, the reason I wanted Rich to join me is Negreanu pushes the kind of newer strategies of playing And some of that's game theory optimal. The other thing that I really like is something called ranges, poker ranges. And that's what we were talking about before the episode is poker ranges and how it, I think, lines up with diagnostics or diagnostic analysis really, really well. Mm-hmm. Please explain it to us.
I thought you were going to do that part.
I've been talking a long time. Why did I bring you here?
I was questioning that myself. I mean, we've been talking about doing a poker episode for a long time.
Yes, sir.
And I always thought, oh, yeah, we'll talk odds. And oh, yeah, that will definitely cross over into the automotive diagnostic worlds with going with the test or going in the direction with the best odds for success and stuff. And then you talked about game theory. And I went, well, oh crap, what's game theory? And then I started digging into that, and I'm like, and you were talking about having all the information, not having all the information. Yep. I forget what it was, and then I did a bit of a deep dive into game theory, and I was like, oh, okay, all right, yeah, this is a whole nother thing I now have to figure out.
Yeah, Matt and his stupid rabbit holes.
I like your rabbit holes.
Yeah.
Some of your more weirder episodes are like, I don't
Some
know.
of them.
Or no, I'm like
all of them.
It makes sense to me, So I don't know.
I mean, I'm speechless. Somebody likes the podcast. One fan.
One. You got one fan. There you go.
Yes.
Like I said, you were in my class yesterday.
Made it.
Yep. There we go. I was telling people to listen to your episodes.
And what happened after they all stopped laughing?
I had to wake them up first. Who? They all had a late night, so it was a rough morning.
We'll put on a Matt Ponzo podcast here and help you get to sleep.
I dimmed the lights. We had a good morning. I played a movie like a teacher that didn't want to do his job that day.
That's why I watched a lot of movies in high school. I had a lot of teachers that didn't want to do their job.
That explains a lot.
Yep. World War I, let's watch Gallipoli. What the? They're sprinting. Then they sprinted across for the trench warfare without getting shot. Mm-hmm. So they could get stabbed.
Yeah.
It's a thing. Civil War, there's plenty of movies we watched. Glory, Denzel Washington.
That was a nice 3-hour one. That teacher really got a break,
Hell,
right?
Yeah. Multiple days. He got the week.
He must have had a hangover.
Got the week off. It got so bad. We watched Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. That's where I learned my English accent.
What was the other one? What was the parody Robin Hood?
Robin Hood Men in Tights.
That's it. Yes.
Mel Brooks.
Yeah.
That is worth a watch.
Absolutely.
Or two or three. Anything by Mel Brooks.
And half of it I can't quote. Like all the quotes that I'm thinking of that movie, I'm like,
man, we're on tangents, but it sounds like Spaceballs 2 is a thing.
That's amazing. I can't wait for that.
And Mel just turned 98.
Yeah.
And if he could be in it,
it'd be amazing.
Excited.
Mm-hmm. Especially for all the merchandise.
Yeah, I might have to get a tent. Sleep outside the theater. Nobody's. Where I live, there's no lines.
Only one. Yeah, we are going off on a tangent. What were we talking about?
I don't know.
That doesn't matter. I figured sooner or later we'd be
poker ranges and poker hand ranges and game theory. But okay, the ranges is essentially when the hands are dealt, right? 2 cards down. Anybody could have anything, right? You could have a pair of 2s all the way to a pair of aces and any combination in between. And then depending on how people respond with betting and reacting and betting to like the flop and the turn and the river or 4th Street, 5th Street, whatever lingo you want to use, you can start taking what are the ranges of hands they could have versus what I have. You're taking into account not just how they're behaving now, but all the studying you've done and history of playing this player over time. And you can start really narrowing down what they have. And yes, they're professionals. They're very good. They all know this theory. They will use that against you from time to time. So bluffing is bluffing is what makes the game the game. Everything else, it would be mundane without bluffing. Yeah. That's what makes it. And the psychological manipulation. But that idea of a car comes in the bay and you know nothing about it. The ranges of what could be wrong are not infinite, but big, lots, wide.
Could be anything.
Right. Yeah. And any information you start gathering on this, be it the service advisor explaining what the client said, or if you had a conversation with the client, or you test drove it, or you plugged the scan tool in, DTCs, it starts narrowing what the possibilities can be.
Yeah.
And at some point, through testing and analysis and experience and training, you should be able to have this range really narrow to 1, 2, 3 things, and then either testing to eliminate them or probabilities. What is the probability that this module is bad? I've never seen one. They don't really have a history of it. You could probably back burner that. And if you're wrong, you might be okay being wrong on the module failed in a weird way and going with the less expensive sensor or chasing wiring or something of that nature.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the episode. Thanks for listening.
All right, great. Thanks. I'm so happy I was here.
I'm glad I could hear that.
Well, I mean, if we go back to that early days of poker, all they talked about were percentages. Yes. They didn't have ranges. It was, oh, my odds are this, and these are my odds of getting this on the flop. So it's, my pot. And now they talk those ranges thing, and I never thought about that in the diagnostic world. But yeah, we do that all the time.
Day in and day out, or should be, or doing it unwittingly, yes. Just not thinking about it.
Yeah, and that was a huge part of my class yesterday, was knowing what you know and knowing what your limits are. That can give you some of your ranges, knowing what equipment you have and what tests you can guide you towards those logical tests or directions.
And what equipment you have, and then it would be rough for experience to fill in certain gaps on equipment use and, or more importantly, the interpretation of the information it provides you. Meaning, if you don't have a sound foundational understanding of electricity, a little bit of an understanding of the meter itself and how it works. And I'm not talking about deep dive into the circuit board and all that, but you know that your meter has an input impedance of 10 meg, which is pretty common. What does that mean? And if you understand that and you have your basic understanding of electricity, that the test you're doing with this meter isn't telling you what you think it may be. Mm-hmm. Or maybe I said that a little wrong. If you don't understand all that, you don't understand what the input impedance means, then the meter's reading and how you interpret that, it may be telling you something, or you think it's telling you something that it absolutely is not. The classic example is open circuit testing, meaning this brake light isn't working. So I go back to the bulb, unplug the connector, stick my meter grounded, battery negative or reference to battery negative, and I got 12 volts. It's got to be a bad bulb. Well, probabilistically, you probably do. And so stick the bulb in and fix it. But when it's not the problem and the meter says 12 volts, now that is not telling you what you think it is.
Exactly.
Many people listening to this probably do know, right?
Yeah.
Almost wasted breath. Right, yes, right. Yes. I view that as, if you don't have those things, experience may not really explain that. You have to go further. You have to go educate yourself. And that might be going to a Richard Falco class.
My class yesterday was a diagnostic class where we didn't do any case studies. We talked about all of the concepts that you should know.
Nice.
Going into a diagnostic, going into, I've got an open circuit code. What should I already know heading into that particular code? And I spent a lot of time talking about service information. And I see this piece of paper that says read the freaking manual on it. But I share a story because I've gotten this phone call 4 or 5 times now in that class from a shop that will call me and go, this circuit is doing something weird, man. There's something wrong with this relay. I have power until I have ground on the relay. You what? Yeah, I've got power until I have ground. Took me a second to realize, and now when I hear that, I know he's got a power probe in his hand. Got a power probe in his hand. He's on the control side of the relay, and he sees power. He goes, well, I shouldn't have power there, because he doesn't understand voltage drop. He doesn't understand the basics of voltage drop. And then he commands the relay on, and it switches to ground, and he goes, oh, there's something wrong with this. PCM's doing something wrong. You don't understand voltage drop, and you don't understand what your power probe's telling you.
Yep.
The second or third time I got that call from a different shop going, it's so weird, man. This thing has power until it has ground. Put the power probe down. I'll be over in a little bit.
see if I can remember the scenario. But a really good example, I think, of this, it was on a EVAP vent solenoid. It had a circuit code and probably a large leak code. The leak code probably set accidentally. The sequence of events that led to its setting had to do with the vent. I just remember, I think I had a test light on it. It wouldn't light up, but I put my meter on there. If I can remember this right, the meter would make it work. And long story short, the whole point of that really is the input impedance of the meter was lower than the resistance of the vent solenoid. The vent solenoid had failed such high resistance, it was higher than 10 megs. Mm-hmm. So now the meter completed the circuit better than the vent did.
Okay.
Right? Uh-huh. And it was just a little bit of a mind job at first. I kept probing it, going this doesn't make any sense. It's a big deal for me to switch my meter to ohm meter. It is a big deal.
Yes. Absolutely.
Network, okay.
Yeah.
Network diagnostics, yeah. Okay. Expected resistances, maybe. But it's a big deal. And then I'm measuring the resistance of the solenoid, and the meter doesn't go that high. So it's just OL, out of limits.
Yeah.
And then it started to make sense. Oh, wait, what if it's not open? What if it's just higher than 10 meg? And now my meter's completing the circuit with 10 meg of ohms. That was interesting to me. I was oh, wow, okay.
I don't know how many war stories we want to share here, but I had a shop call me on a 2011 or 2012 Ford Taurus with a power window problem. I'm yeah, we can't figure out these power windows. I'm this is a 12-year-old Taurus. How bad could it be? The SHO Tauruses have different switches and different controls than a regular standard Taurus. I get there and he's got his test light out. So I'm I'm just going to grab your test light because I'm too lazy to walk to my van and get anything. And, I'm just checking powers and grounds real quick and simple. And when I put the test light to the power, the switch starts working. The windows start working. What did I just do? Why is it putting a test light to the power supply to the right door switch suddenly made everything work? And what I didn't notice is the left door switch was bad and sending out about 2 or 3 volts of power to the right switch. So when you operated the right switch, it wouldn't work. But when I stuck my test light in there to check for power, I pulled it down to ground enough that now when you operated the switch, everything worked just fine. And it was almost by accident that I unplugged the switch and I saw the test light go from really bright to real dim for a second. And I went, oh, wait a second. Why did that it didn't just turn off, it got dim. What the heck was that? And then multimeter and figured it out.
That's awesome.
Oddball stuff.
That's awesome. I was thinking about kind of getting back to the main topic. We had mentioned it earlier that Negreanu, if you watch some of his highlights, makes these predictions that you swear to God, he's got somebody spying.
He's marking the cards. When he says, well, I know you have the queen, I think the other one's the 10 of hearts. And you're how in the world does he know that?
He hasn't done it once or twice. This is multiple times.
They changed the rules.
Yeah.
Because he was pulling information. I mean, they basically told him you can't talk to players.
Yeah.
In some of the tournaments because he was that good at it.
Interacting with them a little bit, watching them, and then he'd be just sitting there and he's should I make this call? Should I raise? Should I fold? And he's just I just feel like you got ace queen, ace jack. And then you could see the other poker player who's trying to no-sell everything.
I mean, you could just see the hope go right out of his face. It's just...
There's if you look, I think it's Poker After Dark. It's a big cash game.
Yeah.
They got stacks of cash. And it's Danny Negreanu and many others.
Yeah.
But Sammy Farha.
I know this.
If you follow poker much, and I don't want to imply I just follow it dedicated, but I do like watching highlights and I do like watching certain players. Mm-hmm. Sammy Farha was the guy who lost, the professional player, big time, lots of experience, brilliant player. He's the player that lost to Chris Moneymaker.
That made the whole big poker craze in the first place.
Right. That caused the poker explosion. Mm-hmm. Some accountant who played some cards actually not well.
Yeah.
Goes to the World Series of Poker and wins millions.
One bluff. That one hand.
Yep.
Bluffed Farha off of that. If Farha called that...
It's over.
It's over. When we don't have this poker explosion, It's
over. And Farhad looks at him. He's like, you're a bad poker player. It wasn't so much you suck. It was really you're not one of us. So it's really, really hard for me to read what you're doing.
Yeah.
If you're in my group or if you're in the top tier players, I kind of have an idea what
You
you're
know
doing.
what to expect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know your ranges.
Yeah, I've read a couple of poker books, and one of them, I think it was Dan Harmon's book, said you sit down at a poker table, and within 2 or 3 rounds, you should know who's really good, and you should know who's really bad.
Yep.
And you have to know, watch out for those guys.
Yep.
Because there's a couple in the middle you might be able to, they might be okay. He goes, but if you don't know that, you're in trouble at that table.
So anyways, they're in this poker after dark. I'm not sure I'll remember the key. I think the cards were ace 9, but Daniel's over there like, do I make this call? And he's looking at Sam and he's like, I get this gut feeling like ace 9. I think you have ace 9. I can't beat ace 9. Folds. Farha throws the cards on the table. They're ace 9. The next hand, Farha's got ace 9 again. It's going around, gets to Farha, and there's no cards on the table. There's no flop. There's no nothing. Negrano's like, you got ace 9 again. Whoa.
How?
This is like, are we scripting poker? Is this like, is this a work? This is like professional wrestling now? Like, you guys just picked who's going to win? Like, what the holy hell just happened?
Yeah. Did he just fold it? Did he just
Don't use Owen. Like,
that's
and I think Daniel didn't have squat and he folded, but
just to pick that up.
so I'm thinking about that. How does that apply to us? And I'm thinking years and years of playing. It's hard to say training. Like he would be self-trained. Maybe he finds and networks with other poker players and they start talking strategy, which they absolutely do now. I don't know when he was coming up through the ranks like that. I don't know if that was the case when he was getting.
He might bet in the outsider.
Right.
Yeah.
When he's losing everything in Atlantic City on a trip that he built up a bankroll over a year or whatever it was.
Yeah.
That's his training, trial and error.
Yeah.
And the studying. So over the years of experience, winning, losing big, winning big, studying other players. There probably wasn't quite as much video. There certainly weren't. Like, I don't think the old World Series of Poker, if you were to watch that on ESPN, you didn't get to see the whole cards.
No, you didn't.
You had no idea what anybody had.
That was the end of that hand.
Yeah. When they put that camera in there, that changed everything.
Yep.
So I'm thinking that's very similar to us, that over the years, the experiences, good, bad, the training, that you go on that test drive or you look at this data and the way it works together, going, when my field trims do this at idle and then change this drastically under load, I'm looking for fuel delivery or I'm looking for an error calculation error. And you can pick that up in a training class, but this is kind of the feel thing, or you can sometimes feel the difference between low fuel pressure versus restricted exhaust. Sometimes you can absolutely hear it with the hiss, but sometimes you don't.
Yeah.
And you feel it. Or there's just a sense of it. And Thornton, who doesn't get mentioned enough in these podcasts, especially mine. He can reach through the microphone and choke me. One time he said in a class, like, it smelled like an ignition misfire.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There's some chuckles, but it's like, no, that's real. That's legit. I understand what you're saying.
I can remember being 13, 14 years old, walking through a car show with my father. Hot rod goes by, big, Opie cam, and my dad goes, that thing sounds late. Yeah. And I remember thinking to myself, for what? Late for what?
They should speed up.
How do you know he's got an appointment? I don't get it, And now you hear an engine, you go, that thing's out of time. Yeah. And I go, oh, crap. Okay, I get it now, My boys work with me. And sometimes I'll look at the scan data or drive the car or whatever, and I'll go, I think it's this. And they instantly go, bet. And one's betting that I'm right, one's betting that I'm wrong. Yep. It's always interesting whether I'm right or wrong, who gets excited. But
to me, that's like a poker read.
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
Yeah. I haven't looked at any real data, maybe a little, or maybe the data is what I'm making my read off of, but I don't know what's really wrong.
Yeah.
And based off my experience and based off training and all that, I'm making this call.
We went to a shop and said that a car was hesitating, a truck that was hesitating. Just put a motor in it. Thing falls flat on its face. Okay. Hop in the car, start it up, hook up a scan tool. While I'm waiting for the scan tool to identify, put it in drive, rev the engine. The thing, not only does the car fall on its face, the whole dash goes blank. Everything goes blank.
What kind of car?
It was a Chevy Silverado.
Oh, yeah?
I pop the hood. Scan tool isn't even powered up. I pop the hood. I go, Tyler, grab the ground cable.
Yep.
He grabs the ground, and he's like, it's flopping all over. Go get a 13-millimeter wrench. We're done here. And they're like, you've got to be kidding me. And I showed them. brought him in the car, power brake the engine, everything went out. And I just, like, how did you learn that? I'm like, well, Grandpa probably showed me that one. My father probably showed me that one. And I think another thing that we can correlate the auto repair business, at least today, to the poker industry is when Daniel was coming up, the Doyle Brunsons and the Sandy Farhas, they weren't helping him out.
No.
There's no way they were helping kid poker out, And when I started in this industry, I had that grouchy service shop foreman that knew it all and don't bother me, kid, go figure it out, And now I think there's a lot more help, especially with videos and everything else out there. But also the culture of shops has changed. So I think that the Daniel Negreaners of the automotive world have a lot more information and a lot more help that, the old school guys like me didn't have coming up.
I agree. And another correlation would be just the technology. And I don't mean the cameras looking at the hole cards, which, I mean, that does contribute to it, honestly, because if you're studying and you know what they're doing, you can kind of start learning their theory and all that, right?
Yeah.
But the other thing is now with the rise of game theory and mathematics getting involved, and as he might have been a bad player, I don't know, but like a not bad poker player, but like somebody of low character ultimately, I don't know. But Chris Ferguson, his nickname Jesus Ferguson, he wore like a black cowboy hat, had the long black hair, would wear sunglasses and
Looked
the
like
long
Richard Petty.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
With a long like black leather coat or something like that. Turned out like he went to UCLA for computer science. He was like one of the very first true math guys.
Yeah.
Like you were saying earlier on about the odds and percentages, like he could calculate that on the fly.
Yeah.
And to get his master's degree, I think, or PhD, we'll go with master's. I'm not sure about the PhD, that he had wrote a software as like optimal way to play poker, every poker hand. And then later on in life, he got involved with, was it Poker Stars? It was one of those. Full Tilt.
Yes. They still owe me money.
Yes, you're right. Full Tilt Poker. He was one of the main people.
Him and I forget.
Howard Lederer was one of them.
Howard Lederer. And,
the professor.
The professor. Those two, their reputation took a shot when that
major.
All fell
and probably
apart.
rightfully so.
Yeah.
But he wrote an algorithm for a very simple program to give you the best idea of what to do with every poker hand. And later on, as he's developing and part of Full Tilt, I don't want to give him all the credit for the software development and all that. I'm sure he had a hand in it. It wouldn't make sense if he didn't. But to demonstrate how this worked, how well it worked, he took $20 and over the course of, I want to say a year, turned it into like 200,000. And all he did was follow the algorithm. That's all he did. And just, it wasn't so much like buy my program, because I don't know if you could.
Yeah.
And it wasn't so much, hey, learn how to cheat. I don't think that was it.
No.
It was, look at the power of the math. There's 52 cards. There's only so many options. And when you start seeing certain cards come up, it changes. And depending on your position, which, that's hard to correlate maybe. But on the table, depending on your position, would dictate the smartest move.
Yeah.
And over time, it's spot on. And that's kind of a game theory type thing, more broadly expressed for our world on making decisions, whether it's diagnostic decisions, business, marketing, stuff like that. And I know I've been threatening to do a real episode on game theory.
We're just scratching the surface.
It's just a freaking rabbit hole.
Yeah. When you brought it up to me and I went, well, I've heard of it, but I never dug into it. I think I got like 2 paragraphs into a Wikipedia article and I went, I'm going to lose a month on this. Like, I am going to get lost if I start digging into this. And I mean, the professional gamblers will tell you they don't gamble. They know the numbers to the point where, and that was one of the books that I read, said, if you go to Vegas or Atlantic City and you enjoy gambling, put my book down because I'm going to ruin gambling for you. You're not gambling anymore. You're going to know the numbers. You're going to know the odds. And I wish I could remember the poker player's name, but it was one of those poker after dark things. It was one of the Asian players.
Oh man,
Johnny Tran or somebody. But he had the same thing. He had a strategy for playing video poker. And they said to him, as they're playing regular poker, they were like, how'd you do on video poker last night? He goes, I'm up $250,000. And I'm like, on video poker? Like, there's a strategy. And again, there's a game theory. There's a way of playing that the right way. So, I don't know.
Yeah, and
I got lucky last night. That's all. I got lucky playing Let It Ride poker. So I was like, okay, I'm good. Yeah.
nice. Yeah, and just to keep going with the technology stuff for poker players, the access to these tables, the access to Game Theory Optimal for poker, the access to the calculators and the engines, the poker engines, kind of like chess now, like the greatest chess players, Magnus Carlsen, they go and they study what the engines do because the engines are so much stronger than they are.
Yeah.
Well, now we study that with poker. We kind of have that for us, maybe not quite to that degree in every scenario. And maybe AI, machine learning will start showing something in that world of calculating based off data and stuff like that. Right now, it's, as far as I know, it's basically statistics based off of what shops say fix certain things.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Some of these scan tools are coming with, there's versions of AI that look maybe not great right now, but they look like, oh, wow, this could get really...
It's got to start somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, it's got to start somewhere. Mm-hmm. I mean, the oldest chess engines were getting beat for a long time.
Yeah.
It was a long time before, was it Deep
Watson.
Blue?
Or Deep Blue, yeah.
Beat Kasparov?
Yep.
Otherwise, Kasparov spanked it.
Yeah.
Until he didn't.
Yeah.
No human can beat him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean...
So we just got to wait a couple more years.
Couple more years,
and we don't have to do a thing.
Friggin' tool's going to finally just tell us what's wrong with the damn car.
Our customers will be right. We'll have that box that tells us what's wrong with the car.
Yeah. And then just schedule it and bring it in and fix it.
Exactly.
The computer said.
Exactly.
It'll be legit.
Yep.
All those years, how many years since the 80s? Like, well, the computer said.
Yeah.
It was all BS.
Yep.
It's going to be true. The computer said.
And we're out of a job. I don't have to train anymore.
See, I thought that was part of my training thing or technology bit was that access to training is so much easier than it was.
Oh, absolutely.
Man, when I first broke in, nobody went to training. You got your diploma or degree from college and then you're done.
And some of the training, at least in the late 80s, early 90s, the training was so bad, I just started telling these parts stores, I don't need another class on how to sell your alternator. I need a class on how to fix charging system, Yep. So for a while there, the training industry and the sales industry were intertwined way too much.
Yeah.
So
now you can fire up your laptop or fire up your computer during a break or lunch or just a little bit at home every night. Mm-hmm. Get logged into, NAPA Autotech there's just so many resources.
Yeah.
We'd lose an episode just rattling off all the resources, but training is right there for you.
Yeah.
And in quality.
Almost to any level.
Right.
I mean, there's young guys with just a couple of years experience that have base knowledge that probably took us 10 years to get to because of all of that information at their fingertips.
It's crazy. When does the money get to be like poker, though? Like the big wins, like
you know what? Yeah,
Matt diagnosed that check engine light.
When do I pop that hood and wiggle that ground cable and get 250K?
Yeah,
yeah, that's what I need.
Poker's nothing like fixing cars. What am I doing?
We're just depressing ourselves. Screw this industry. I'm going to play cards.
I'd say I'm better at that, but it ain't really saying much.
It's a low bar to reach.
Low bar. Well, I really appreciate you taking time out of your day, walking around the trade show, Joe's Garage, trying to help them get their production numbers up.
I'm going to go over there and start cracking the whip on Dave Hobbs.
Hobbs?
I think that's who I see. I might be wrong.
Thorson was over there yesterday.
Oh, yeah, I was doing his Tesla class.
Yeah.
Keith Perkins did his Diag class earlier. This is a good event.
Bill Weaver's over there. Actually, we can probably close our eyes and listen. You can hear him.
Can we throw stuff at him from here?
Speaking of throwing, I just want to toss this out there. I want to find out, anybody that knows Bill, have you been to his classes? Is it me or does he sound a lot like Wayne Static, the lead singer, the late lead singer of Static X? I think you listen to like Push It.
Now I hear it. Now I just want to talk to him.
Dude, I think I'm right. Especially now. Today, with his voice is a little raspy from talking and this ambient noise.
Can we get him to do the haircut too?
Just find like one of those Slim Jim hats and then just say she's a stupid. Oh man! Recite these words from Wisconsin Death Trip. Say she's a loser. She's a loser. Dude, I swear to God, they sound exactly like.
All right.
But yeah, no, thank you very much for stopping in at Apex 2024 next to Joe's Garage in the Aftermarket Radio Network booth.
Thanks for having me.
Well, there's a lack of options.
I saw Mike and Justin and everybody else turn you down. So
I know. I don't know why they have to add all the insults to it. Why not just say no?
I mean, all the F-bombs before and the laughing. It just gets insulting.
Why not
you just say, I got to wash my hair.
I'm so sorry. I got to go.
I got to rotate the air on my tires. Something.
That sounds so fun, but I'm needed in this booth, or I got to prepare for a class tomorrow. Like, they have training on Friday? No. Wait, what? All right. Thank you again, Rich Falco, one of my best friends here at Apex 2024. Hope you got a kick out of this one. If you have any more ideas or thoughts about episodes like this, shoot me an email at mattbonzelpodcast@gmail.com.
Hopefully a better idea.
Yeah. Otherwise, private message Tracy and complain. Yeah. Thanks to our sponsor, NAPA Autotech Training. Thank you to the Aftermarket Network. And I suppose we'll thank Carm personally and Tracy indirectly. Until next time, take care.
Bye.